What's up, guys? Welcome to another Cosmos Session video. This one will be very interesting. Let's roll the intro and get right into it. All right, so today I want to talk about something that comes up a lot for clients, and it's just very, very important. I don't think people understand the magnitude. So when you have an outer planet, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, even Jupiter, kind of a middle planet, Pluto, right? Chiron's also in there, but I haven't really seen the effect that I'll explain in a sec. But when you have one of those planets conjunct your sun, mainly what I'm talking about today is the sun, but of course it will affect everything. It's a whole different story for the moon and for the ascendant, but that person, so if someone has Neptune on their sun, which that's probably the most common one, people who come to me as Capricorns and they have Neptune, I think like 90% of my Capricorn sun clients have Neptune conjunct their sun. It's not a coincidence, right? Neptune, the planet linked, let me get a little more comfortable here, linked closely to the sign Pisces, very related to mysticism and spirituality. It's literally like 90 or 90+%. The amount of Capricorn, that's it. And yeah, if it's not that's never happened, but it's really this generation that we're born with, say, when that generational planet Neptune was in Capricorn, they were born with, with their sun around the same degree. So, 1 second here. All right, sorry about that. I had to pause, had a little cat emergency, but all is good now. Anyways, so as I was saying, so Neptune on the sun, it always makes someone more of like a if they're a Capricorn, like it's almost like they're a Capricorn / Pisces. They always, and this goes for the moon too. They take on, they tend to be way more interested in spirituality. They tend to be way more, not saying, Capricorns aren't compassionate. I'm just saying that the ones with Neptune on their sun are always, very mystical, very compassionate. So, obviously in a natal chart, it is about how everything fits together. It's, you can't just take one. That's why I tell everyone you should get a reading or learn astrology, because you can't just take one little piece and then, it could be completely different in one chart than in the next, right? But anyways, so it's the same thing with Pluto, right? Pluto. So if Neptune gives like a Pisces, like so like if you read someone that has, and I know people watching this will have Neptune on their sun or Neptune on their moon. So yeah. And I'm not going to go into like everything it means. That's not what this video is about. This video is really about explaining how massive of a deal that is. When I say Capricorn / Pisces, like people get kind of blown away because they're like, but I'm a Capricorn. But it's like, yeah, but you have the planet. You were born when the planet Neptune, when your sun, which was which was in Capricorn, right? Was conjunct on the ecliptic, right? I wish I had like actual things. But the Neptune's right here, and the sun is very close, right? So yeah, so that's very important. And yeah, with Uranus and Pluto and Saturn, it's a similar. Uranus is Aquarius, Pluto is Scorpio, Saturn is Capricorn, right? Chiron, that's kind of a up in the air one. Like I look at that. I guess like I see it more, one might say, oh, Virgo, but I look at it more psychologically. I look at a lot of things very psychologically when I do readings. But yeah, for sure, Chiron I'm kind of still not too sure about. But anyways, okay, so Pluto, if you meet someone, let's say, with a sun in, what's a good example? Because it would have been recent. I guess like I see a lot with the moon, but like sun in Sagittarius, right? Conjunct Pluto, or I have multiple friends that are moon in Sagittarius, conjunct Pluto. So I'm a Sagittarius moon, right? I have two very close friends that are born in the Pluto Sagittarius. Why am I so red? I guess I got sun the other day, but wow. But yeah, so I have two friends that have their moon in Sag, right? But then they have Pluto conjunct the moon. And they both have similar issues when it comes to their parents that I don't have. So then that has really affected their psychological, you know, it's made that moon, which is your you know, it rules your emotions and kind of what makes you feel safe and you know, a lot of your emotional development and whatnot can be seen through the moon. I mean, obviously there's nature versus nurture, right? There's free will, but I'm saying that someone who has a Pluto aspect in their moon, it's called a Hades moon. So it takes on, regardless of sign, it takes on a Scorpio element of depth and intensity, and yeah. So that's really interesting because as a Sag, like it's a really good example of what I'm saying, because as a Sag moon, like. And I have a lot of my friends are Sag moons, right? Not a lot are Pisces, but a lot are Sag moons. And we all have this same, I don't even know, like it's hard to put into words, but the Sag moonness, like you kind of, like when you know Sag moons, you can kind of just, it's like this optimism, this way of thinking. But then, yeah, so it's like they still have that, but then the Pluto, you know, it adds that depth. But then once again, you have to look at the whole chart because, you know, one of my friends, he has no water in his chart, but because his moon is Sag with Pluto, that gives him that water element, right? That kind of makes up for that lack of water he has in his chart, right? Which is so important when you look at a chart, is to look at what elements, you know, is there any elements lacking? And it's not just with planets, it's also with outer planets, right? So let's carry on. So then when we have, yeah, Pluto's sun, obviously, regardless of the sign, it, you know, it also takes on, it always takes on a more psychological flavor. And there's just this theme of death, rebirth, transformation that we all know about. We've all heard so many times. And yeah, so regardless of the sign with Pluto, the person's gonna feel more scorpionic, right? Okay, so then with Saturn, that one's interesting because, you know, people with Saturn sun, Saturn moon especially, like the first 30 years are always gonna be really tough. There's always gonna be this element, you know, usually the parents were very strict, and there's always this element of kind of growing into yourself, like really having to overcome a lot to feel like confident, to feel strong, to feel, okay, you know, I'm good in myself. I know that I can move forward, because a lot of times they had, you know, they came up, they had upbringings where they didn't have the best encouragement. So that's what I would say is kind of interesting about that one. But then that, you know, so this is all psychological, right? Because each one has a different psychological effect. Like the Neptune, going back to that, you could say the Neptune could have the effect of having, you know, the parents or early, you know, some level of the early psychological development. You know, it could lead to someone being more, like they can be more avoidant potentially. I want to, you know, choose my words correctly, but there can be a sense of loss around, you know, mom or dad, or just one of kind of, I think of it more in terms of like the psyche, the, you know, the animus, like the male and the masculine and feminine, you know, within all of us, regardless of our gender. So yeah, so it really does depend on the sign, you know, because it's going to be different if it's Pisces or Neptune conjunct Pisces than it is like Neptune conjunct Aries, you know. So anyways, yeah, so Saturn's interesting, but with time, Saturn always gets better. So people with that Saturn, let's say conjunct Sun, it could be, you know, like I'm talking more about conjunctions here. Like obviously the squares and the oppositions of all these are very, very strong, but they don't have that blending effect. Like the conjunctions have this blending effect because it's with the with the sun or with the moon or whatever, right? So yeah. So Saturn, so if Neptune and Pluto would give that element, would give that person, and you can use orbs, by the way. Everyone uses different orbs. When it's the sun, I use pretty large orbs. I mean, it's more of an intuitive thing. That's why I never really make videos about that. But, like if it's, it can be up like to 10, 12 degrees for conjunctions. Obviously, it's different if it's, I'm not going to get into all this right now, but how the aspect is taking place. So yeah, but roughly like 10, 12 works for me, and some might say 8. But yeah, conjunctions, you can use wide orbs. And then if you really want to get technical, you can look at the declination also. But I think that's another video because that's really interesting stuff. Anyways, so Saturn, right? The planet of karma, the planet of responsibility, the planet that tends to teach us very difficult lessons that we have to learn to evolve as souls, and then rewards us with our hard work. Like I always say, Saturn is that teacher. I mean, I had this teacher growing up who was just like, not the most like physically attractive, kind of like witchy archetype, like in her presence and her voice and her screeching and screaming at me, but she cared about me, and she I think I talked about this in my book. Have not read my own book yet, which is available on Amazon. I wrote it during my Saturn return. But anyways, yeah, like she was always very like not mean to me, very strict. But it's because she saw that I wasn't achieving my potential. I was really young, but I always think of her. She had like long, kind of like black hair with like white, very very black hair with like little white strips in it, or not strips, like white little like pieces that were whitening and whatnot. And yeah, like I didn't obviously like her in the time, but as things progressed, I kind of realized, damn, and I had other teachers that were horrible, so it's like, hey, she actually cared. So yeah, and I was a little fucker, so a little prankster. Anyways, I just had a really good idea for another video. We'll see if I make it after this. But anyways, okay, so Saturn people, they grow up and they can become the responsible ones. So when you see, if it really does matter on timing, because like the first, usually 30 years will be more setbacks, right? Like karmic lessons they have to learn, but a lot of times they will, so they can take on a Capricorn effect. So this is gonna be really interesting, right? Because if you have, for example, Leo, like I've seen, like, okay, and I'm not dissing Saturn, and I know that this is kind of off what I was saying, because this is an opposition, but it's a really good example. So when I was first getting into astrology, I was like asking, as a Sag moon does, I was asking every single person I met about their chart. I wanted to see it, I wanted to learn, right? So I was traveling in Bosnia. I don't know if you guys know about me, but I travel a lot, Sag moon. I think I've been to like 80-something countries. I don't even count, I don't know. But like the point is, like I was doing a Euro trip, saved up money, and I met this like really boring dude. I was staying at hostels. This is way back in the day. So I was staying at hostels, and this guy was like the most, like, he was American, I think. Yeah, I think he was American. He was the most monotone guy ever, right? But he was like, slim pickings at this hostel. I just got there and I wanted to kind of go out. I think it was in Sarajevo, the capital. This guy, like, I believe it was, see, now I can't remember if it was I think it was Sun in Leo, but it was Sun or Moon. God, I really should. See, this was so long ago, but like I just remember, like, he showed me the chart, and there was the whole point was like he said Leo, or like I was just, I think he was a Pisces though. I don't even know. Anyways, like I think I was shocked because I knew Leo somehow for the first few hours hanging out with him, and I'm just like in my head like, how is this a guy a Leo? Like this guy is so held back in his expression. Leos are never like this, right? And I look at his chart, and sorry, I can't remember, but it was either whatever. I think it was the moon in Leo opposite Saturn. Now I know that's not what I'm saying, but it's a good example of just like how impactful aspects are. Because yeah, I'm preaching this more about conjunctions, but that's how drastic it can be. You know, this guy definitely was not. You know, his Leo, that fiery, like fun expansion, not expansion is Sag, but you know, that passion, that all that was, you know, that joyfulness, all that was held back because of the Saturn opposition, right? So these are things that you can work on. You know, they're not death wishes. They're not, you know, like people will say curses. It's karma. It's what you've chosen to work on. So obviously, if you've chosen to work on it, you can handle it. Okay, next. So yeah, Uranus has like an interesting effect too. That adds like an Aquarius vibe. So I guess I'll say, backing up a tiny bit, Saturn, just to finish about that, if you don't have any Earth in your chart, but then you have like a Saturn conjunct your sun, or like even Saturn on your moon. Saturn on your moon is really, really constricting, by the way. I'm not going to get all the way into that one, but that's one of the more difficult aspects in astrology, just Saturn and moon in general. But yeah, so that person, but usually it will take them longer, is what I'm kind of trying to say, to start thriving in that Capricorn role, that higher Capricorn role, where they're hardworking, you know, very, you know, that person that can just kind of very resilient, can get through tough times. And that, I always say like high Capricorn is like honor. It's like it's like the person the elder that we respect. And they don't have to be old, you know, they can be wise, and they care about the rules. Like they're in this crazy world, like the high Capricorns like would be the ones enforcing, or not enforcing, but like, you know, holding people accountable and whatnot. Not just them. I mean, obviously Libra is the judge, but yeah, I can make a video about the archetypes. I have to come up with the ideas literally on the spot. Like I can't think of ideas just like brainstorming. I have to write it down. Sorry if it's not professional. But yeah, that'll be a fun one. And oh yeah, I have another one too. See, that's what happens with me in my sessions sometimes with different clients. I'll like have like downloads or ideas, whatever you want to call it, and I have to write it down. But yeah, so okay, Uranus gives. So if you have a Uranus conjunct Sun, Uranus conjunct Moon, whatever, and guys, this applies to everything. You know, Venus, Mars, Mercury, you know, the ascendant. So, but I'm really like kind of trying to like really talk about the Sun, because the Sun is identity. But just know that I know people will be watching this and be like, hey, I have, you know, Venus, or I have Uranus conjunct my Venus, right? Or like a lot of my clients and followers, Uranus, you know, conjunct Mercury, right? Which can give like a very genius approach to life, or to the mind, to thinking, all that, but outside the box. It's sometimes misunderstood, especially the square, even like ADHD and the brain moving so fast. But that's another video. So I would say that with Uranus, that's air. So like if Neptune and Pluto are Pisces and Scorpio, so it can give like extra water to a chart missing water, and Saturn can give like that earth. So Saturn can actually be really, really good for a chart that's missing earth. You know, I mean, like, yeah, like I said, it will be hard, but it's always worth it. Like Saturnian people, like a lot of times their life, like it's a lot of karma they have to live in the first 30, and then life really takes off after that, you know? And so I always tell Saturnian people, I know I keep going back and forth between Saturn and Uranus, but it's like, there's so much to say about Saturn. I always tell them, do not let any shame from the first 30 years, this goes for like all hard aspects, do not let any shame from the first 30 years get in the way of your, you know, growth after that, right? Of your ability to, yeah, don't let it like kind of hold you back. So, okay. Uranus. So Uranus. Uranus is a planet that is very unconventional. Just like Aquarius makes their own rules. Like I know a lot of Aquarius. I have a lot of Aquarius in my own chart. So you know, Venus and Mars and North Node, and I know a lot of Aquarius. And what I like about Aquarius energy is that it doesn't try to be cool. It just kind of is cool. And I think some people give Aquarius, and sometimes they can be a little bit full of themselves. And maybe that's that Aquarius Leo axis, but more Aquarius than any sign. Like they tend to be like cool, like is a really good word to describe Aquarius because and Uranus. Well, not as much Uranus. See, there is a difference between the two, but especially because Aquarius is like linked to Saturn in traditional astrology. But basically, Uranus, it is that liberating energy. So someone who has a sun with Uranus, they're going to be a very unconventional, rebellious person, right? Most likely. They're going to be someone who's a pioneer in whatever they do and who thinks outside the box and, who has a very different type of life purpose. And the same thing applies to the square and the opposition, right? But yeah, like with the conjunction, what makes it stronger is that, like I said before, it takes on the energy of that planet. So you really have to go, okay, to the drawing board, like, let's say it's a Taurus sun. Well, yeah, right now it's Taurus. Taurus is in Uranus, so the babies born now will have that, right? So, that's, or the babies that would have been born this Taurus season, they would have, some of them would have been born with Taurus conjunct Uranus, even, right? Would any have been born with Algol? I don't think so, but close. Well, like with Uranus and Sun in Algol. Yeah, I think it was, thank God. I think it was a few degrees too early. But yeah, I mean, it would be close enough to it. But yeah, anyways, okay. So basically, what we're talking about here is there would still be that Taurian, let's say, yeah, so sun signs in Taurus, there'd still be that Taurian, kind of, sometimes there can be like a resistance to change, but that usually, Taurus quite stable. I love Taurus. They're just consistent, and I just feel like of any zodiac sign, Taurus makes me feel like probably the most comfortable. That's like besides other water signs, like for like the Pisces part of me. So I think that really speaks to, like, there's just this down to earth energy with Taurus where it's like what you see is what you get. I know it's not going to resonate for every Taurus, but like in a world where there's so many fake people and there's so many people where it's like you think you're getting one thing and then you're getting something else. Like I like, an energy, and obviously like, once again, there's psychos of every sign, but I like an energy where usually I know what I'm getting, Even like from the way they look, it's like inviting and yeah. But anyways, the Uranus would make that a very interesting type of Taurus, right? Because they would be pulled between this urge for liberation, for being their own selves. Same thing with like, a Capricorn sun conjunct Uranus. It'd be crazy, right? And that's actually probably one that's more likely because there'd be a part of them, and obviously it depends on the whole chart, but there'd be a part of them that would be a lot more involved in making, in kind of, because Capricorn sometimes can be too much with the trends and wanting other people to, not always, but I've seen it a lot where they like because I don't care at all about, I would never follow fashion trends or anything, but this is actually a funny example. I just buy what I like, and like I think a lot of guys started wearing football shirts. I've worn football shirts my whole life. I have like hundreds of them, I just like wearing them and it fits me, and then like the world follows. It's happened. I'm not saying like I'm so cool or anything. I'm just saying like I know a lot of Aquarius who've told me like, yeah, like I started doing this thing and then somehow, other people were doing it. But yeah, I'm not saying that in any way, obviously, but yeah. So yeah, and then Uranus Moon, like obviously that can affect your emotions, and it can create a lot more of an up and down emotional nature. Someone who may have had more, what's the attachment style? Parents that, could have had like an anxious attachment style potentially or just like, yeah, more rebellious, more bohemian kind of upbringing. Just like something that like in their upbringing, maybe they had a lot of freedom, maybe they weren't pushed in a certain direction, or maybe it was more of like a kind of, different type of upbringing, like alternative. It's really, you really have to see the whole chart to know. So, but it can definitely make people's like kind of go back and forth with their emotions of like, especially when it comes to like freedom versus like if you have like Scorpio or Taurus, like that, the more like Cancer, energy that's more like stay at home, kind of have things be a certain way, right? The Uranus would shake that up a lot, and it can create that split in that person where it's like one part of them wants to be like that, the other part of them wants to, especially in relationships, switch things up, so they could like maybe get very, very close, like with like, let's say a lot of Scorpio energy, right? Or Scorpio and Pisces, like in Taurus, it's like their chart is mostly those three. But then they have Uranus conjuncting, let's say like the Venus and the Sun or something like that. Like they would probably find relationships that they would really, really want to to dive head deep into them, right? And then there'd be this back and forth, right? Where it's like, at one moment they might want to be all the way invested, and then at the next moment they might kind of pull back, right? Like kind of the two souls, the kind of Scorpionic eighth house, two souls, two souls kind of combining, becoming one. There could be like sometimes where that merging, that's what they want, and then other times where it's like more of the Aquarian Uranus, idea of I always talk about my idea of the Uranian relationship, right? Like sleeping in different bedrooms, having energetic breaks. So it's like you might have to involve both of those. I should make a video just about that, even though it's less astrology, more like philosophy. Not really philosophy, just I guess it is kind of philosophy and more like life ideas, but it's related to astrology. But anyways, and then Chiron is different. It's more psychological. It has to do with wounding, and I'm not really going to go into that one in this video. Jupiter, middle planet. Jupiter is massive conjunct the sun. I was just telling a student, by the way, I offer one-on-one astrology lessons to anyone interested. But so I was just showing her an example of how massive it is for someone's Jupiter to be like I was using my parents as examples, like my dad, Sun in Cancer conjunct Jupiter, right? Just how massive that. So that gives. So if someone's missing air, the Uranus can give them, the Uranus conjunction or whatever can give them, what they need there. But the one, so Jupiter Sagittarius, it's ruled by Sagittarius, so it gives that kind of openness, optimism. So I have a friend who's an astrologer also, and she has Moon in Capricorn, square, I think it's square Pluto, and then there's a T-square basically between her Moon in Capricorn, her Sun in Virgo, and Saturn. Saturn opposes the Sun, and so it's in Pisces, and it squares the Moon in Capricorn. Yeah, even though that's two signs away, it squares it. It might be like 0 degrees Aries if I remember correctly. But anyways, that's really interesting. Really interesting one because like you see both elements, right? You see like Saturn and kind of how that as a Capricorn moon, that makes her moon ruled by Saturn, right? So and then Saturn already squaring it. I did a reading for her, and she admitted after, she's like, you're right. Like I would be. She said something along the lines of like, this Jupiter on my moon is what gave me perspective and gave me optimism during like these really dark times in my life. With respect, I think it was with her family and just different things in her upbringing that were not easy, like more psychological, like family karma type stuff, ancestral karma. So like I told her in the reading, the recorded reading, I was like, Jupiter on your moon is a huge deal. Like, yes, you're a Capricorn moon, but having Jupiter there will give elements of Sag moon, like Capricorn / Sag. And I think I said something along the lines like, your life would be way more difficult. Like it would be way more difficult for you to see the glass as half full, especially during those tough times that I know she goes through without the Jupiter. And I think she told me after that it was like a big kind of realization for her, like, damn, like I didn't realize how strong that conjunction was. And yeah, conjunctions are huge. And then on the sun, it's just like, everyone I know that has, like, I can almost start to kind of, not always, but I've guessed a few times, people I've known, like my landlord, for example, right? I knew he had Sun conjunct Jupiter, and then after like years, really good guy, in Romania, and after years of I finally like kind of asked him, and he gave it to me, and I just looked at it, and I was like, yep, Sun conjunct Jupiter, I knew it. Libra Sun, but conjunct Jupiter, and this guy has the biggest Sagittarius. Like you would totally think like yeah, I feel the air, but like also Sag, you know? And for example, like he left hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, right? We all know Sag is very much about learning, reading, high philosophy. Come here, Mika. So yeah, he left like hundreds of books, all different types of subjects, like from spiritual to you name it, right? And this is like a business guy or like business and tech guy, right? So super, super intelligent guy, but interested in all these different topics. So that's the Jupiter influence, right? That's like the scholar, that's like the lifelong student. So and when you're always, and that's Jupiter's expansiveness. So it gives like also this kind of swagger and this kind of, that the aura of someone is way different when they have Jupiter conjunct Sun than without it. It gives this massive charisma nearly always, right? So it's a really beautiful protective shield and great for popularity, regardless of what's happening. It can really save a chart. I mean, it's the great benefic. So. Yeah, with that said, I also can kind of say that it's the same thing, with Venus conjunct your Sun, like that's going to add that nice energy, right? So if you're missing fire, by the way, like, yeah, so having Jupiter, it feels more airy, like when you say it like that, but like, yeah, it can definitely, it won't really help with like that aggressive, like Pluto honestly could help more with like that more like aggressive type. Like especially with Pluto Mars, but Jupiter is, linked with Sagittarius. So just, yeah. But I don't think someone who has no fire in their chart and who has a Jupiter conjunct Sun, like I think it would help them in a Sagittarius way, but not like in an Aries fire way, where it's like Aries fire is just like, I'm gonna do it now, blah, blah, blah. Like I don't know. Pluto's Scorpio is not even like that. There's not really a outer planet that's like that, maybe Pluto mixed with Mars or Uranus mixed with Mars. Different things. I'm not going to think about them all now. But yeah, okay. So, well, actually, what does that is when you have Mars conjunct like your Sun or your Moon even, right? So if you're missing fire, but you have Mars, and yes, it's an inner planet, but still, if you have Mars conjunct it, it's going to really, really help you with assertiveness, and it can make someone a little bit angry, a little bit on edge, but yeah, like, so a good example of that is, okay, what happens to someone who has Sun in Cancer and Mars in Cancer, or Sun in Libra, Mars in Libra, conjunct? Well, yeah, they're gonna still, even though Mars and those two Mars signs are not known to be very good with assertiveness and, whatnot, they, it's gonna be better, right? It's gonna be, it's gonna definitely help the person with kind of having, let's say, yeah, kind of having assertiveness, maybe even boundaries. Saturn would be more the boundaries, but you get what I'm saying. It can help give that edge, because a lot of times people who lack fire often lack the ability to self-start. But when you have the Mars conjunction, it can help that. And yeah, Venus will give like kind of an attractiveness, and just like it's similar to what I said about Jupiter, but not, it's more airy, more kind of serene. It's more feminine, right? So it gives like a very, very chill, like almost what I was saying about Taurus earlier. It gives that effect, a peaceful effect. They can be very beautiful, or just have like a very beautiful energy, stuff like that. It's a blessing. And yeah, I have a whole different video about Mercury conjunct Sun, but me and Angel, which you guys should follow me on Instagram at Jesse Innocent Astro, and also my friend Angel. We're doing work together and learning stuff, and he's offering readings at a much lower rate than me, in English and Spanish. He's from here, from Argentina, 10 plus years experience. I'll put it up here, Angel Paez Astrology. So, yeah, let me think if there's anything else. So yeah, Mars, Venus, Mercury, I said I do. Moon, Moon is just like, that's just you being born on a new moon. That's a whole different video too, because that's moon phases, which I can write down also. But yeah, so I hope this video kind of made sense. And also the nodes, that's another video too, especially when you look at it from a Vedic perspective, because it's Rahu and Ketu. So that's something I've been learning about. It's really fascinating. Like if you look at, like I have Venus conjunct North Node, so that's Venus conjunct Rahu, and it's just way different from Western to Vedic, and it's just interesting to kind of learn about that. So yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think, and also feel free to let me know what you'd like to see me make any type of, any video on in the future. And yeah, have a great rest of the week whenever you guys are watching this. Enjoy, what will the moon be in tomorrow? Probably Gemini. Yeah. Enjoy the mercurial energy if you're watching this in that time or whenever you're watching this. All right. Later, guys. Ciao.